Hello everyone, welcome to all of you on my YouTube channel Saurabh Goswami, History Optional for UPSC. And today we are going to discuss PYQ, or you can say that model question insights from the topic Dutch presence in India. So here we are discussing this lecture as a part of our pre-history optional program series, and we are discussing chapter 1. And here in this chapter 1, this is lecture number 10. So irrespective of the duration of the lectures, it might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour or 2 hour. We are discussing this entire series in chapter wise topic and subtopic wise format. So the very first chapter was Advent of Europeans in India, and in that chapter, there are different subtopics, different European groups. We have already covered Portuguese. Now in this second subtopic, we were covering Dutch, and I have already discussed with you in lecture number 7 the basic facts and information about Dutch presence. Lecture number 8, we have discussed conflicts of Dutch power with other powers called imperialism, nature of imperialism of Dutch. Lecture number 9, I have already discussed with you the historiographical aspects of this topic, and today we will try to discuss the ideas that this entire subtopic will be helpful in writing the PYQs of UPSC History Optional Mains. So in this way, this is lecture number 10 which we are going to discuss. So let's start our discussion. So the very basic purpose of today's lecture is to get an insight about PYQs, from the topic Dutch presence in India, and when I say PYQ insights, it simply means whether any question has been asked in previous year or not. This we will explore. What is the probability of asking questions from this topic in future? This we will explore. We will also explore the nature of questions which could be asked from this particular chapter. Will it be an independent question, or this question will be a part of the broader theme, that is Advent of Europeans in India? It means the chapter will be embedded. How the informations and the ideas that have been discussed in this chapter will be helpful for you in developing understanding linkages based, you can say, linkages based ideas for answer writing. So this all we are going to discuss. Now in this chapter, the Dutch presence in India, if you will look at the previous year questions, you will find that directly in UPSC Mains, from history optional subject, no direct questions have been asked. The first important thing. And UPSC, whenever it has asked the question, it has asked the question from the main theme. And the main theme is European penetration in India, or Advent of Europeans in India. And in main theme, there are different subtopics. So whenever UPSC frames question from the main theme, it creates a scope for evaluating analytical skill of the candidates. Such kind of questions which are covering the holistic theme and that requires an interlinkages based understanding are also capable of evaluating your critical outlook. So that's why UPSC generally asked embedded themes, overall themes from this topic. So this is an important point. It means what you can expect in future. So you can expect either overall theme, or you can expect comparison based questions where Portuguese, Dutch, English, all these issues will be combined in a single theme, and the question will be asked to you. So that is what embedded theme based question. Okay, when you look at the previous question, you will find that previously UPSC has asked questions where the embedded theme was like the theme was like related to the commercial rivalry between different European groups that took place in India. So obviously, when you will answer commercial rivalry between different European groups, and if you have understanding of Portuguese and Dutch, so this will make your answer better. And this is also very crucial in explaining. When you will look at the modern Indian history question and world history questions, you will find that in world history also, in modern India also, it means paper 2 section A and B also, you will find such questions where UPSC has asked the themes that require the understanding of the transitional phase in Europe. 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century, which kind of development took place in Europe. So whatever we have discussed, all these discussions will be helpful in dealing with such kind of difficult question. Many a times UPSC has also asked the questions where this idea, okay, was part of the theme that do you understand this fact or not, that how this process was completed, how different Europeans came, they came in conflict with each other, how British were successful in establishing themselves as a political power, okay, who had territorial ambitions in their mind, which group had territorial ambitions in their mind. So if you understand all this, okay, so this definitely this is going to sharpen your arguments in your answer. Your answer will be qualitatively good. In the same way, in your answer, this might be a possibility that the questions will require the understanding of the concepts like mercantilism, early mercantilistic capitalism, corporate capitalism, charter companies, okay, new, you can say that in this global connected trade network, how these new tendencies appeared and what was the impact of that, okay. So when you will insert the ideas, Portuguese, Dutch, whatever we have learned about the companies, so definitely this is going to help you. Many a times when UPSC asks the question about the disintegration of Mughal power in India and the rise of regional states and autonomous powers in India, they, whenever this theme, we have to study the political fragmentation in India, the disunity between the local powers. That's all we need to discuss, okay. So how this political fragmentation was helpful for these European powers, okay, how they utilized it as a strategic advantage and they were successful in making their fortunes in India, okay. So obviously when you will discuss Portuguese, Dutch, in Dutch I have discussed with you that how naval supremacy plus diplomacy was a part of their strategy, and diplomacy is what, whenever they need it, they will make alliances also, okay, they will fight, but they will fight only when there is necessary. They avoided major conflicts. So this all idea we will discuss, okay. So we will have a very good understanding. Suppose when you look at the nature of question from this particular chapter, you will find that majority of the questions are related to two themes: English East India Company and French Company, okay. So you will find that almost 90% question are related to this theme. Now imagine a situation, if you have not studied Portuguese properly, if you have not studied Dutch properly, and if you have directly jumped to these themes, obviously you will not have a very good understanding. And generally this is the trend in 90% of the classes which are being provided in coaching institutions. Here the faculties directly jump to the English and French Company, and in this way you can say that the basic foundation of the students remains weak. So if you will read Portuguese, if you will read Dutch, the questions are asked or not, okay, without jumping directly to the English and French Company, it will be helpful for you, okay, in order to understand the nature of East India Company, English East India Company, French Company, whatever we have discussed, this is going to help you a lot. It means that if we skip topics, if we jump directly to the theme from where the question are being asked, so you will find that always there will be a gap in your preparation, and this gap I will use a word for this, that is, this is an analytical gap. you will fail to connect the dots between different topics. So this will create further challenges for you. So in order to develop an analytical and critical approach, in order to develop a comparative outlook to the development of different subtopics or the themes, we need a holistic understanding. Okay, so obviously whatever we have discussed till now, Portuguese and Dutch, will be helpful in making your concepts better. Now you can efficiently use the terms like corporate imperialism. You can efficiently use the terms like territorial colonialism. In context of Dutch, we will use corporate imperialism. In context of Dutch, we will use territorial colonialism. In context of Portuguese, we are using the word early mercantilistic capitalism. So there is a reason and logic behind using these keywords. When you look at the questions in UPSC often uses such kind of keywords in its questions. So unless you don't understand the themes in a holistic manner, you will not be able to decode the questions. This is the most important challenge for the students. So interlinkages is very much important, and to develop that interlinkages based understanding, detailed study is very much important. And for having a detailed study, only notes, material and books are not sufficient. You need a detailed discussion on these topics. Okay, so definitely this is going to boost your preparation. Now, since no direct questions have been asked from this topic, and there are no chances, very rare chances, that direct independent question will be asked from this topic, but still, if I write some model questions here, and if you will try to explore the answer of these questions, okay, for example, I am writing a model question here. This is not PYQ, this is model question. Again, I am reminding, this is not previous year question, this is a model question. Suppose I frame a question, and the question is, the Dutch in India were merchants, not empire builders. The Dutch, and this is the statement, the Dutch in India were merchants, not empire builders. This is the statement, not empire builders. This is a statement. And now the question is asking you to examine this statement. Now look at this question and just assume that if you have not done a detailed discussion of this topic, you will not be able to decode this question. And mugging up the answer books or guides is not the solution. Since we have done the detailed discussion, now we can understand the demand of the question, what this statement wants to say. For example, the statement is saying the Dutch in India. It means the question is related to the Dutch presence in India. They were merchants, right? They were merchants. They were not empire builders. Why this question is saying like this? If you want to decode this question, you all know. Why Dutch in India were merchants? Because the Dutch company VOC was first joint venture company. You all know this, okay? There was a more disciplined corporate culture here. This is supported by state. This has a state backing or support. This company will get charter and monopolistic rights from state, but the company has a separate what? Ownership and management. Board of 17 is handling the management of the company. The people can invest money. This is not a temporary OS based company. This is a permanent joint venture company, and this is one of its kind. Shareholders can purchase the shares. It means such kind of company will focus or will have a profit driven approach. Very simple. Because here the investors' money, this company is having what? Investors' money. So you will have to show profits to the investors. So the approach here will be a profit driven approach. It means no doubt if the Dutch will try to get benefits from the profitable trade in Asia, and here Portuguese are already present and Portuguese are monopolizing the trade routes and has militarized the oceanic trade. In this situation, you will need a strong naval support, you will need a navy, you will need state support, you will need army, but this all is needed to counter your trade rival or commercial rival. Once this challenge is over, this company will focus on maximizing its profits only. This is the most important point. Once this challenge is over, the company will be focused on maximizing the profit. The company, okay, will not have a kind of missionary zeal or religious intolerance policy like the Portuguese. This will be absent. The territorial ambitions of Dutch company will be absent. And since they are largely concentrating on the profits, so for them the Spice Island or Indonesia is very much important. Okay, so whenever they will think about a core okay, Dutch empire, so India will always be on its periphery. So what we see that the Dutch were not like English. The Dutch did not interfere. It means they interfere in the local politics only when it was needed. They did not desire to have more and more territory. They did not desire to have a revenue base. Okay, their diplomacy was also very much limited, and in this context they were different from the British East India Company. So in the context of India, who was the empire builder? English East India Company was the empire builder, but when we talk about Dutch company, they were mainly merchants. So whatever I have discussed here, while examining this statement, each and every argument here I have already discussed in the previous lectures. That's why I say that whenever I am taking any lecture, you will find that each and every model question or PYQ, you can find answers from my lectures itself. For example, if I take another model question here, okay, again this is not a PYQ, what I am going to discuss with you, this is a model question, but the understanding of this model question is important. For example, if I ask this question that examine the nature of Dutch imperialism on the Coromandel coast. For example, I am asking this question that examine the nature of Dutch imperialism on Coromandel coast. This question. Now, without having understanding, it will be very difficult for you to write the answer. In classes, I have already discussed with you that when we talk about the Dutch presence in India, so what do we see here? Okay, so we see here what? Coromandel coast is important for the Dutch. Malabar coast is important for Dutch. Coromandel coast, there is a headquarter, Coromandel headquarters, that is Pulicat. Here Malabar coast plus Bengal, we will see their presence in Bengal, Odisha, Balasore, presence in Patna also, okay, some presence in Surat also, but overall what we see that why this Coromandel coast is important. So this Coromandel coast is important for textile trade. You will see here textile producing units, you will see here cloth dyeing centers, and the cotton textiles, the textiles that are produced in Coromandel coast were high in demand in Southeast Asian countries, were high in demand in Indonesia, and spices are an important commodity of trade for the Dutch. Okay, so in this situation what will happen, if they will get textiles from here, so they can use this textile for exchange of spices, and finally these spices were very high in demand in Europe. In this way, the Coromandel coast trade network was making the trade of Dutch company more and more profitable. Malabar was also the part of the same process. Previously, here many of these centers were under the control of Portuguese. So Dutch had conflict with their European counterparts, Portuguese. Here also you will see that many of these centers were previously under the control of Portuguese. So in order to establish their dominance over the Coromandel coast and Malabar coast, the Dutch had conflicts with the Portuguese. The Dutch has also conflict with those local rulers which were the sympathizers of Portuguese. It means it was a limited conflict. Okay. Unnecessarily, they are not interfering in the local politics. They don't want to develop a collaboration with the local Indian powers, and the people, the Dutch will take help of those groups who are hostile to the Portuguese this way. Now the second important rivals were, okay, English, British. Okay, so what we see that gradually British, Dutch both will come in conflict with each other. There will be rivalry, there will be Amboyana massacre in 1623, and finally you can say that a mute agreement has been reached. Later it was formalized that the Dutch will take care of the spice trade. Indonesia, the British are not going to interfere, and here, okay, India, the trade and commerce will be monopolized by the English East India Company. So this is the point. But on Coromandel coast, the Dutch are also doing what? They are also showing their behavior that is monopolistic in nature. For example, with traders and merchants, they are doing forced contracts, that is monopolized contracts. This is not good. Okay, this is the point. So overall, when we talk about the Dutch, they are also trying to make the maritime commercial dominance in these particular areas. So in this way, when you will write answer, okay, whatever the arguments you will write, if you have a good understanding, so definitely you will get good marks. This is the point. In the same way, there may be model question that examine the causes for Dutch decline in India. Again, it needs a understanding. Why Dutch decline? There may be multiple reasons for that. They failed to develop good collaboration with the local Indian rulers. They did not have any territorial ambition. They failed to develop a permanent source of revenue. They did not have territorial ambitions, limited territorial ambitions. They were focusing mainly on trade and commerce in India. And British were their most important rival. They were also focusing or trying to make their trade and commerce more and more profitable. So here, what we'll see that the economic interest, there will be conflict in the economic interest. This will happen. Okay, the Dutch will give a tough competition to Portuguese, but now Dutch have a powerful navy, so English also have a powerful navy, and English navy or British navy is more powerful than the Dutch navy. This is the second important point. And the next most important thing is that Dutch themselves, just from the beginning, they were not very much interested in India. They were more interested in Indonesia. So that was their main priority. Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. Dutch were more interested in Indonesia. So this is the reason. Okay. So in this way, we can explain the reasons for the decline. Okay. So whatever the questions you will get, independent questions are very rare, but for example, these model questions, such kind of questions will not be asked. I'm only discussing these questions so that you could revise your concepts and you could understand that how we are going to utilize the concept. So whatever I have discussed in the class lectures, some information, some ideas, some arguments you can use in writing answer of those questions which will be related to the main theme, broader theme, or you can say the question that will demand a comparative outlook. So that will be helpful for you for writing the answer. So this is an important point. You will be expert enough to use important keywords, analytical keywords in your answer. You will use the keywords like monopoly capitalism, corporate capitalism, early mercantilistic capitalism, maritime commercialization, limited territorial ambitions, naval plus diplomacy, the limited territorial ambition. Diplomacy was also very limited. Okay, the limited efforts to develop collaboration with the Indian rulers. So when you will use such kind of keywords in your answer quality will improve. You will get excellent marks in history, and history will give you the marks like mathematics and physics. Trust me, whenever I teach history, I used to teach it like mathematics and physics. Okay, so I started my teaching career teaching mathematics, science. Okay, so the same outlook you will see here, that while teaching history I also use the same pattern, and trust me, the number of videos will be, you can say, in hundreds, but each and every video is dealing with a separate theme. Some videos are of 20-30 minutes duration, some videos are of 1 hour, 1.5 hour duration. But daily, if you will watch one video, make notes of this, notes of not each and every line. Some students do what, they watch video and start writing each and everything that is being dictated in class. That's not a good strategy. First, you should focus on watching these lectures at least 2 times. First time, watch the lecture. Second time, sit with pen and paper. And okay, important approaches, keywords, ideas, or any sketch and diagram that could be helpful for you, that you should mention in your notes. Okay, so in this way the notes will be very concise and it will be helpful for you. So I hope that we have covered this subtopic, the Dutch presence in India, successfully. Since there are no direct questions in previous year, that's why the duration of this video, okay, is very short duration, 20-30 minutes. But if in case we are discussing English and French, the duration will be long duration videos, because there are questions that have been asked from this topic. So this lecture number 10 is over, and here we have covered the entire subtopic, the 4 dimensions of this subtopic. Okay, so I hope that this video might be helpful for you in making your preparation better, in refining your preparation. And thanks for watching this video. See you in the next class.